The following episode contains language and descriptions of violence and self-harm. It may not be appropriate for all listeners, but it was my life. Discretion is advised. Well, we are here again. Welcome back to another episode of Roll Call with Chappie, and I have a very, very special guest with me today, ex-military, and I don't even know too much about all that stuff, so I need you to introduce yourself properly, all your military stuff and everything you've done. Just please let them know, besides your name, Mr. Brendan Quisenberry here from Detroit, Michigan.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Peter. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I appreciate it. No, actually, currently still in special operations, actually, with the United States military. Today, actually, September 14th, 2004, I went in 18 years ago, and so still currently serving my last 2 years and everything. But bulk of my time, which we will probably dive into a little bit further, but I've done some time with the 82nd Airborne Division, the 101st Airborne Division, and then the rest of my time's been with special operations community.
Way above my pay grade, and the only thing in the world I'm not tough enough to do is the military, so thank you for your service. And we got in the studio Mr. Randy Salazar that you guys wanted to meet too, so shout out to him and all the military out there. I don't think you had a very troubled upbringing, but I always like to get everyone's upbringing because it's all varies and it's completely different. And you were raised by a police officer as a father or something, right? So let me get into your childhood and how was it growing up?
Yeah, no, so it's interesting, because listening to obviously some of the stories that you've done with different people, for the last handful of podcasts and everything.
Thanks for listening, bro.
Absolutely. No, I'm loving it. You're doing really good stuff, and it's great. More or less, like my childhood was relatively, it was pretty good. I guess I didn't have any real bad experiences or hard upbringings or anything like that. The area and the community that I lived in was great. I was in Oakland County, Michigan, in a town called Clarkston, but I guess kind of a wealthy community, and it was pretty up and coming, and it was a kind of a picture perfect childhood growing up.
So it sounds to me like the only thing wrong with your childhood was the fact that you're in Michigan.
Exactly. Yeah. So those winters.
Robin, what I say about laughing on the show here? I'm gonna start making that a guess is to get Robin to laugh because she's not supposed to be talking here, but she can't help but just shoving herself on my shows now. So there we go. Anyways, I forgot where I was at now too. But okay, so and then you joined. High school. You said you're starting to get into a little bit of trouble in high school, correct or no?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, so we were kind of talking about that a little bit, but
and then I didn't want to brush over that. How was it growing up with a police officer?
Like I said, so pretty good for the most part. My parents actually got divorced when I was about 5 and all that. And so my dad was, he was really busy with law enforcement. He actually rose pretty high into the ranks all the way to undersheriff within Oakland County, Michigan and everything. And so, growing up as like kind of the cop's son, they definitely, keep a pretty tight leash on you, and you really got to watch yourself because I'm not trying to get in trouble.
Did they all know who you were?
Oh, yeah. Okay. No, everyone knew. The Quisenberry name, especially in Oakland County, it's not just my dad. I come from a big Irish family, so all the brothers went into law enforcement.
Really?
I have a huge family.
Okay.
My cousins now are still working there currently, so it was a really big following of law enforcement and all that within my family and everything. So, cool. But interesting enough, I guess my dad, when him and my mom split, I didn't really see him that much. So my mom pretty much took me on a lot of the times when I was getting raised and growing up and everything. And I would only see him maybe once every other week or maybe once a month and all that. He was super busy with being in law enforcement and everything. So I didn't get to see him or really get to know him a majority of my childhood and all that. And I think that kind of left like a chip on my shoulder, for when you especially not having a father figure kind of in your life, more or less, and your mom's doing the best that she can. It's kind of interesting, growing up, your upbringing, and like how that can kind of really tweak a kid's, I guess, childhood.
For sure.
And I think for me, I always had that chip on my shoulder of, kind of resenting him for what happened and everything. And, it's water under the bridge now, but when I was a kid, that obviously impacted me very much. So, I definitely had that chip on my shoulder, and I, was always out to prove things. I did a lot of sports and was, pretty aggressive into playing a lot of different things and everything.
What were your primary sports?
Oh man, so anything. I mean, really anything. But I mean, growing up, football, baseball, soccer were like some of the big ones. Just anything, any sport I was like playing as a kid. I just loved competing, everything, and I'm pretty decent at it. I guess I was kind of naturally talented at some of that stuff. I loved, playing it. I was pretty naturally athletic, I guess. And so I always enjoyed the competition and all that. But I think there was a drive that I had because he was never around to just always strive to like improve those aspects.
I can imagine playing sports without like my dad there to watch me too. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah, and there was times, like he would make it out from here, from time to time, would come out and see my sporting events and everything. I think he would always try to do that as best as he could. But no, it wasn't really until high school when eventually my mom, she like kicked me out of the house and for a good reason, So I was like a freshman in high school, and she's like, you need to go live with your dad. You need to go, learn about him, like get to know him a little bit better,
really,
and everything. So she kind of forced that in, and
how was your dad about that?
Receptive, yeah. No,
did he want that himself, though?
Yeah, I believe so.
Maybe after that time he'd calmed down or chilled down in life and was like wanting to get a relationship with you and to learn you too?
Yeah, so he was, at that point in time, he'd made it really high all the way to undersheriff, and I think he was definitely open to getting to know me a little bit more and everything. It's funny talking about this because I've never even had that conversation with him. I don't think we're not super...
Maybe you guys should have that conversation.
Yeah,
Wipe that under the rug all the way.
I know, yeah, no. So it's interesting. But went over, lived with him and everything, and which is kind of where...
Was it the same city?
Yeah,
okay.
Same town, everything.
So you stayed in the same school and everything?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, which was, again, that was nice too, not having to move schools. And
for sure. So how was it then after you moved there? I saw a little smirk right there, so let's hear it.
It was interesting. I mean, it was just different from my mom's style that I knew my whole life.
Yeah,
now my dad, we're kind of just getting to know each other and trying to figure each other out and everything. But obviously, he's the father figure. It's his house. So he had his set of rules and everything, to which I know that I was always out breaking and whatnot. And so it was pretty interesting. I definitely, got into some trouble when I was a kid. I started kind of hanging out into some, I wouldn't say really bad crowds, but I just kind of made some stupid decisions started, selling a little bit of weed in high school and everything, making some extra cash and everything like that. And then actually a really good friend of mine to this day, and we both have really obviously paid for it, but kind of actually jacked some car stereos and everything. So that was one of our big ones where we both eventually got arrested for it. I
went to prison for a long time for stealing stuff.
Yeah, I know that. Oh my gosh, that story kills me. That really does. So I ended up, kind of getting busted with that, but because of my dad's position, it more or less got swept under the rug, and I had a very big passion on going into the military.
How mad was your dad about that, though?
Oh, he was furious. In fact, if I
because I'd be more afraid of my dad than even the law as a kid.
Oh, so if I remember correctly, I believe he was actually in Mexico on just a nice vacation. Yeah. So he very rarely takes vacations and everything. And so the one time that I get busted, they call him down to Mexico. He ends up leaving, coming back early and everything. That was not, that was a rough, it was a rough couple months after that. I was definitely grounded for a while.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
That was kind of rough.
Okay. So did that spark your thing with wanting to join the military after high school?
Well, a little bit, yeah. So.
Yeah, and where'd that come from?
Yeah, so.
Did you want to be a police officer at all?
I did think about it. Yeah,
okay.
that was clearly on my mind. Ironically, my dad was, all about no, go into service. So he pushed it hard, and I'm actually third generation military. So my grandfather served, my dad served in the military as well. And then when he got done, went into the law enforcement. And then, so I kind of knew I had that drive to always continue to serve, and keep that legacy going and everything. But then you're talking, this is a sophomore year for me. So now this is September 11th, 2001, the towers hit. And
stop.
You
didn't tell me this part of the story.
Yeah. So I mean, I knew I had that kind of a little bit of a drive to still go into the military.
Okay.
And,
how old were you when that happened?
This is 16, I think. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
16, sophomore in high school.
All right. So then you're thinking I want to go do something about this.
Oh, yeah, at that point in time, just the way that I still get goosebumps right now thinking about the towers getting hit and everything, and I just knew I was going to go in and I wanted to serve and everything. And so I at that point in time, it was a waiting game. I mean, I'm a sophomore, so I can't do anything until I'm a senior. But that really solidified the fact that I knew I wanted to go in, serve my country and everything.
Did you know what branch or anything you wanted to go in?
I was debating between the Marine Corps at the time with just their infantry unit and everything. And then I knew a little bit about the military special operations from what their recruiters are telling me, and which is always hilarious.
Like car salesman, I'm taking it, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, just oh yeah, son.
The car's fine. Just drive it off the lot.
Would you like to go in and blow stuff up and everything?
Yeah, you want to go play with cool big guns and blow stuff up?
I mean, it'd be the best recruiting tactic. That probably keeps their numbers so high because that's one of their easiest selling points.
Yeah.
And what kid is that not going to get?
You want to blow stuff up?
Yes, sign me up.
Yeah.
So. No, so I went into.
You signed up to blow stuff up?
I went in as going under a 75th Ranger Regiment contract and everything, and so I heard
Explain
about
what that is. I don't know what that is.
So yeah, this Ranger Regiment and the 75th Rangers and what they do and everything. Notorious for the Black Hawk Down movie and everything. So they worked with Delta Force at that time. That was kind of what really blew them up with the movie and the book and everything like that. But just a really good one of the best infantry direct action small units, platoon size, that are just really good at running and gutting and hitting targets and all that, which is just, it was the top tier. So when I was looking at already going in the infantry, I was like, well, I want to be an infantry guy, which is very similar to that, but the gear, the training, everything is a lot more focused with that unit, and that's where I wanted to be, which I heard was the best at that time. So went in to set out for achieving that. And
how was that? I always want to know like how it is with people going in the military at the beginning, because I've always said it before. There's so many similarities now to like prison and that stuff, and like you're going away from home the first time. Clearly, you have a little more freedom than I had, but like it's got to be a lot of similarities where you're like homesick, or what's your thoughts, or are you worried about losing your life? And it's so crazy to me. That's what I always worry about with the military, and that's why I say I'm not tough enough to do that. Like you could lose your life so easily, like, and I just couldn't ever risk that. As selfish as that is, like. But that's why I have all the respect in the world for the military guys. Like I just couldn't, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. I get you. It's thinking about it, especially now. Like I was I wanted, like I was all about leaving. Like I was just like wanted to get out of there and everything. And again, like it wasn't a bad town by any means, but I knew I wanted to be.
You're ready for the next chapter of your life too,
Yep,
huh?
I was ready for the next chapter. Just move out. Let me get going with next chapter of my life and everything within the military. I was all about it and loved every minute of joining and getting out of Michigan and going to kind of start something with my life. And going back to school, like I was, average student. Like I did not apply myself at all. Loved sports, so like I was big into that.
I was C's and D's with an A and PE.
Yeah. No, I like sports, really kept me going. I probably would have had worse grades in high school if sports didn't keep me you had to like be average to play some of the sports and everything in my school. So like I would get tutoring just to get my B just so I can keep playing sports. But no, that was kind of I guess a big drive into going in and looking back. And yeah, I just wanted to get out and go start the next chapter of my life.
Okay, and I want to talk about the military stuff for a while, because clearly I can tell by Randy's episode, people are fascinated with that, love military stuff, because this episode's got a ton of views already. What is the next step? So do you stay in Michigan, or do you go somewhere else, and are you living on a branch? I'm like naive to all this, and a lot of my viewers are too.
Oh, Peter, no, great question. No, you basically go in, so if you're going to infantry, that's going to go like to Fort Benning, Georgia, and you're going to go down there, and that's where you go into boot camp, basic training.
How long is boot camp? Do they all depend?
Oh, it's like three months, three and a half months, something like that. Yeah. It was
9 weeks. Okay.
Yeah, it was a blur for me. But yeah, so I went down to Fort Benning, Georgia, where they run, infantry, home of the infantry is, and went down there.
Is it like the movies? They pick you up in an army plane and stuff like that, and fly you down there, or no?
Well, I mean, as far as the bus, I mean, not so much the plane per se, but yeah, we got bussed all the way down there from Michigan, reported down there, everything, full head of hair and whatnot. You stand in line. Everyone is just, nut to butt standing in line. You're going through your haircuts, and just some guy doesn't even care about the razor. That like
like in the movie, they shave your head?
No, that's still, yep. You go in, just buzz it all right off. And it's funny looking back. I should have just shaved my head ahead of time, so it would have been easier. I don't know why people don't do that more often.
You wouldn't have hair spots left over, I'm sure.
Yeah, and then so you go, you do your basic training, and that is where like they really. That's a whole nother world.
You start learning a lot of mental strength then, and
I mean you start going into your disciplines, your basic foundation of like, perseverance, discipline, training, teamwork, everything. So you just start really kind of learning about that stuff and trying to incorporate in your life. But a majority of us are all punk ass kids with different styles and different ways of life. So you're trying to bring those guys together and create a semi cohesive unit. But to which a lot of them end up quitting. So I remember tons of people that I went with originally that eventually quit and whatnot. And kind of left, or they would like injure themselves and escape and try and leave because they.
My uncle did that, and I'm gonna throw him on blast right now. But he was like a water boy and like didn't even quit through boot camp, and like it's on Veterans Day, and he'll be like And no joke, he'll put on Facebook like, today's my day. Like my dad even smokes him too, because he's like, dude, you did like 6 months and didn't even finish whatever you're supposed to finish. And he was a water boy or some weird stuff like that. So yeah, it's crazy.
No, it blows me away that like people would do that. And like my mindset was never like that. Like I was just so excited to like knock out basic training, knock out AIT, which is advanced individual training, just a little bit more specific. And then
is that after boot camp?
It's right after boot camp, yeah. So it's pretty much, it backs up to each other.
Okay, so you do boot camp when that's over, and then you're right back into the next training course?
Yep, so your basic training that you kind of got, and then you'll go into some advanced individual training.
Each one's different for whatever route you're going to go
exactly.
in? Okay.
So the MOS, Military Occupational Specialty, which is basically a job. So when you talk like, oh, what job do you have in the military? It's like, what MOS do you have? But yeah, that was infantry. So then they just focus a little harder on AIT of your infantry tasks and skills and try and hone you in a little bit more on that. But because I was on an Airborne Ranger contract and everything, that was just a stepping stone, which then takes you to first graduate infantry school, then you go into Airborne School next, which is a 3-week smoke fest, where they just, not that it's really hard looking back at it, actually, like the runs are obnoxiously like slow, like painfully slow.
Really?
You're like 9 minutes, but you're running in a massive formation. And so everyone's just kind of like just trotting along some concrete road and all that. And
so the biggest thing is probably boring as hell doing it like that, huh?
Yeah, no, it was terrible. But then you get the old slinky effect and everything. So then the formation speeds up, and then so half of it speeds up, the other half is really slow, and then there's like a period of time where like guys just start jetting out, and then you have to like full sprint to catch back up to the unit. But it's just terrible. It's absolutely terrible for you. But looking back at Airborne School, though, it was still a lot of fun to actually just, this first time I jumped out of an airplane and everything. So they do the static line style of parachuting, where basically guys just kind of, you quote unquote, you say jump, but they almost just fall out of the aircraft. And a static line just pulls your parachute open. And then you do that for 3 weeks. At the end of 5 jumps, you get qualified, airborne qualified.
So it's almost the same rules as real skydiving out here, right?
Yeah, not.
But just that part of it, at least. I didn't just compare the military to skydiving, but yeah.
No. It's funny because like the just two different styles.
Okay.
I mean, everything painful about jumping is static line, and then everything fun and exciting is the free fall world.
Okay, gotcha.
So just very different in those aspects. But,
and you knew you were going to be doing that by just the branch you served. You knew that you selected.
Yeah, there was a good chance that I was doing it. Now again, that was just the contract that I was in. I hadn't made it over there yet, and which will eventually take me into going over to 75th Ranger Regiment, going out for what was called RIP at the time, the Ranger Indoctrination Program. And that's basically like your selection to get into the Ranger Regiment at that time. And I was doing all right, actually. I did about the first 2 weeks, and it's about a 3-week pipeline at that time when I went in. And then I ended up getting kicked out for an unsecure wall locker that was just back at the unit and everything. So
Tell me about this. What is this?
It was ridiculous. So like guys, at that point in time, their numbers were so high. A lot of the recruitment was doing well. So 75th was getting a ton of new recruits in. And so they just had the ability to drop guys left and right for anything. Mm-hmm. And so I was kind of crushed at that, Like,
I take it they're probably not doing that today.
Their recruitment numbers are terrible, actually. It's really bad right now what's going on. But it was, again, so it was really high at that point in time. So any little thing, if you tied your shoes wrong, possibly, you had a button not pocket,
no way.
Like you could get dropped. Like it was crazy. And I had an unsecure wall locker, so I ended up getting dropped, which took me to basically what's called the worldwide assignment, where they can send you anywhere in the military at that point in time. Now you're not
just for having your wall locker thing not closed or whatever.
Yep.
Whoa.
So now my dreams of wanting to go into 75th Ranger Regiment, is kind of mostly shattered or gone. Wow. And now I'm on this worldwide assignment. I have no idea where I'm going to go. But looking back at it, it's funny because you're kind of in an airborne unit. So there's like 3 airborne units in the entire military that you're going to go to. And going into the 82nd Airborne Division is, the largest one out of them all. And so ended up going over to the 82nd Airborne Division, which was a great experience, and I'm actually glad that I got to go over to that unit eventually. It was really cool. Like I just, to this day, my platoon and the guys that I met initially over there and everything, like I am still really good friends with a platoon's about, 30 guys, give or take.
Wow, that's cool.
And it is just a really tight-knit brotherhood.
And what are you guys doing there?
So now we're all infantry guys. We're in this infantry platoon in an infantry line company in the 82nd Airborne Division. But you're just the brotherhood, the camaraderie, the teamwork.
It's like prison, I would always say. Like you form bonds in there, like we're talking on the car right over here,
No, absolutely. And like the training, so you're out in the field and like, in the 82nd, like we were always out in the field training at that point in time. And you're sucking. I just remember all the cold nights, and there's times like we wouldn't have our snivel gear and our cold weather gear, and you're huddled up with your buddy, and like you guys are just shivering together, and you're trying to suck it up and drive on. But it's funny the different bonds that happen because of that, and then the stories that obviously come out of that.
Yeah,
it's just,
for sure.
It creates a really tight knit kind of.
And that's what I just talked about. Like when you have a cellie in prison, like you spend more time with them than your wife, your kids, or anything. Like when you spend 24, pretty much 24 hours a day with them, you form a bond that's like people can't even fathom it out here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No.
Especially in prison, like when you're willing to like risk your life and like die for somebody, or likewise, or they will for you, and it's like you just have a bond that people don't have a grasp on out here.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get in. What happened after that? And are you at this point? What are your thoughts? Do you just love the military and you just like want more of this, and you think you made the right decision? Everything still?
I was still enjoying it. Yeah.
Okay.
I was still enjoying it at that time. That takes me to my first trip where I did a short rotation over to Iraq. Which was just to help assist with the elections and all that. And this is like the end of 04 and 05 time frame. And so that was kind of like my first taste into Iraq and Baghdad and everything, and seeing what that was like. But luckily, I only caught the tail end of it. So I went over there and then eventually just came back. And then coming back, seeing the guys that had been over there for the last several months, it was crazy to see them kind of where they were at beforehand, and then obviously,
and
how
are you thinking,
they were after.
Damn, did I really make the right decision?
No,
really?
No. Still at that point in time, I really was still liking the military. Yeah, I know. I guess I never really, looking back at my career, never actually thought about like, I kind of regret this and everything. Even after 18 years, there was some, kind of decisions.
But you could noticeably
everything.
see the difference in them coming back.
Oh yeah, no, it was like there was a lot of people that it got pretty messed up. Out of Baghdad, we were out of Haifa Street and everything. The Haifa Street was one of the most dangerous streets in the world at that time.
Really?
And just IED central with explosives, all that. So it especially psychologically, it takes a toll on you, because once you see your buddy and a leg get blown off him or something like that, you just don't know like what could be next, where that next
step
IED
you're thinking,
could
damn,
be
is that
at.
gonna be me next, huh?
Yeah, no, you just never know.
Talk about stressful, man. I thought prison yard was stressful. Holy crap, I didn't even think about that stuff.
It's crazy.
That's the stuff the public doesn't think about. Like you guys say you can go over there and like, I'm like, I wouldn't even do that, and like you don't even think like just walk around, you could like literally just your whole body blown up.
Yeah, no, and obviously, and then seeing it for firsthand is a whole nother matter on that. But it messes guys up for sure, and they come back, and so lots of guys left the military out of that. Maybe I would have possibly, who knows, if I had done a longer rotation with them on that, but it was such a short rotation that I didn't probably experience as some of the craziest stuff that those guys did. But then a year later, the same unit, same group of guys and everything, we ended up deploying to Afghanistan.
God, and they just go right back there, bro.
Yep.
Damn, military dudes are so bad. I'm serious. Like I can't. And people think I'm tough. Like I'm like 4% as tough as like dudes in the military. I'm like, I can't even fathom doing that. Like all I'm thinking of is how like they came back there, and then like the next year they're just going back. Like I compare everything to prison because I spent half my life in prison, but it's like you have zero choice there. You know what I'm saying? Like and it's not like you're putting yourself in prison, but it's like it's more dangerous than prison.
Yep.
You don't have freedom like you don't have in prison. Really. You know what I mean? It's almost the same thing when you guys are literally signing up and going to put your life at risk. I can't believe it, bro.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And the next rotation that we did, which was kind of my first. So we went to Afghanistan, about I think 2007 time frame.
I'm gonna turn this into a military podcast. Shit.
It was crazy. I didn't realize how far we'd go in depth, but this part is actually kind of unique because now we're over there for about a month or two. They don't really have any good mission with us, and it's the first time that I had actually got to work with Special Forces guys.
Okay.
So we're now on a FOB, a military base overseas in Afghanistan, and I see these Special Forces guys for the first time. And of course,
what is that? Is that like the elite bunch of what you guys are?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So
where was that? Where Randy was?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So I just kind of like your tip of the spear guys. Is really kind of neat because you see them and it's like the little things that you really don't think of. You're like, man, they can grow out their hair and they're just look at all the really
it's like
cool.
the Aryan brother in prison. Like, you know what I'm saying? Them fools get to do whatever the hell they want. You know, we're smoking rollies, they smoke Taylor's Marlboro cigarettes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And like little things like that, you're like, oh, these cool shoes. They're not these forced military combat boots that we have to wear. Like they could wear Merrell's or whatever shoes they want. So it was like the little things like that. But that was just a byproduct. Like you start working with these individuals and you realize like how squared away these guys are, and they really know their job. So like the other stuff, like it's not that important when you know
like that's why you got hair and you can do whatever the hell you want with your feet.
Yeah, no. So we got to embed with them. So at this point in time, I'm an infantry unit and a scout sniper platoon at this time, and so we had a specialty in long range precision shooting. And at this point in time, the ODA was like, "What are you guys doing?" And we're like, not really a whole lot for our mission set right now. They're like, why don't you guys attach with us? So all summer long, I think summer of 2007, like we go out and we're doing tons of hits with, and it's actually 7th Special Forces Group. I remember those guys. We just start doing tons of direct action hits with those guys. Now, a lot of them were doing the direct action kinetic stuff. Now, it was funny.
Not to be dumb, I'm serious. Can you explain like what direct action hits are? I think I know it is, but a lot of viewers probably don't even know what that means.
Yeah, so the direct action hit is just you basically know, or you have a high percentage of knowing that you're going to get in a gunfight. It's going to get tense, possible like close quarters battle and everything. So you're completely expecting it. And then there's procedures that we have and TTPs and things that we have to kind of mitigate and obviously maximize the use of what we know against the enemy. But it was they specialized in that, and basically all we were was outer security guys. So you're like, oh, that's kind of, we're just like, okay,
Literally.
so we set up security perimeters around them, and they would go in and do these hits directly on the compound.
No way.
And so you're just like, I'm just kind of like a security bitch or something like that. And but it was funny because as soon as they would do their hits, a majority of the time, what happens is like guys would just be running off
Spurred out, so then you guys pick
target
them
and
off.
all that, and then you're just ready to just pick them off. They're all bad guys, and they started running and everything. And we just get there to rope them up and or pick them off if they were a threat or anything like that. But it was my first
rope
experience.
them up? What do you mean?
Like just eventually run them down, flex cuff them, whatever.
Okay.
Just take them in and
And then what do you do? You take them in just and decide and figure out somehow if they're actually bad guys or if they're just a regular person that was in a bad area?
Exactly. And it happens. There's a lot of civilians and stuff that are just in the
wrong
areas
place,
of the wrong place, wrong time. So you decipher.
I've been in
that
the wrong
and
place at the
figure
wrong time before. It's not fun.
Yeah, I know. But that was my first experience working with those guys,
Okay.
and that's when I was like, wow, I really want to. That's my next endeavor. Like I want to drop my special forces packet and go become like a Green Beret.
Okay.
Getting ready to do that. So I come back off that deployment. It was a high. It was really good for the most part. We had a pretty good rotation and all that.
Is that what those guys are called? They're called Green Berets?
Yeah, the Green Berets. Yep. So Special Forces and Green Berets are basically
same thing?
they're the same thing, the same name. The military the mainstream media and all that can usually say Special Forces, and they think it's a lot of different people, but it's Special Operations entails everyone else, and then Special Forces is the same as Green Berets.
Okay.
But no, that I knew I wanted to drop my packet and do that, but I couldn't. So I came back off, and I just re-enlisted, and because of that re-enlistment, they're like, oh, you got to give us one more deployment before you can go join the Green Berets again, And so now it just came back, 6 months off, and then we're getting ready to go back for another rotation. The next rotation.
And how long are the rotations? Like a year, 2 years or something?
They would vary. So they were usually 11 months. 12 months. We got extended to a 15-monther. But yeah, no, it's a good year and a half of your life. In fact, my 2007 one was when I turned 21. So I was 21 and 22 in Afghanistan. My entire 21st year, I couldn't even have a legal drink.
No way.
I was over
when I was 21 and
Afghanistan.
22, it felt like I was in Afghanistan.
Yeah, I know. Jeez, yeah. But no, so I had to go back and give another rotation. So I was like, all right, well, I still want my dream to go over there. So I went back for a second rotation back to Afghanistan now at this point in time. And that was, we were down in Arghandab River Valley. Now this is like 2009, 2010, and the height of the war. I mean, you're about 100,000, Americans and people are in the country of Afghanistan. It was probably the highest concentration of people at that point in time.
Oh.
And but also like the IEDs and everything were ridiculously insane. And at that point in time, we were
Is that
down
what kills
there.
more Americans over there?
That's the biggest thing. I mean, that's the biggest thing that gets most of our guys.
They're just pussies. They just hide and shit and just do stuff. Yeah.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yeah. And so that deployment was rough. That was
Really?
the opposite of my first one, you know. And at that point in time, we were losing guys left and right. I mean, I can't even remember the numbers now that I think about it. It was I think it was like 22 KIAs in my battalion at that time.
And how many people were in your battalion?
And so in a battalion, you had about like maybe 400 or so.
Okay.
But then you had a whole bunch of other guys that did not die, but were major amputees. So just guys' legs are getting blown off left and right, limbs, everything. And
God, and you just see the guy right there and you're chilling with him
Yep.
until he gets a ride back to America, right?
Yep.
And then you're like, you got to go do the same damn thing knowing that just happened to him.
Yeah.
Damn, dude.
So that last deployment, that was really rough, and lost a few good friends on that one, and that hit me really
Does
hard.
it ever occur to your mind when it happens, or like when you lose someone, like I'm done with this, I'm out, like?
It's you're almost like.
Or do you like take it as anger and like I'm gonna fucking kill these fools tomorrow?
That obviously
For sure that's already there, but
Yeah,
like-
you start thinking that you're like, now we're really gonna get back at them and everything.
Now I'm not
But,
tying
like,
this next one up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
I already know your answer, bro.
It's crazy. You just really become emotionally numb. It's hard to really process. You're like, man, he was just
Your
with us,
mind
and
is
now
just
he's
numb
not.
to violence. Like I told you, I was
Yep.
until that one voice still stays in my head. But other shit, I just prison people get stabbed up all the time, killed,
Yeah.
murdered,
Yeah.
and just like
Yeah,
another day.
Yeah, exactly.
Walk away
Just-
and you're like, don't even, I tell my family and they're like, what do you? They want to ask all these questions. I'm like, I don't even look. I don't know. It's just like what it just happens. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just literally another day here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You learn not to even look at that shit. You know what I mean?
I know. No, it did. Yeah, you do. You become emotionally numb, no empathy, no anything. It's crazy to kind of.
So you're probably
process.
looking like those other guys when you came back from that one.
Yep,
Huh?
exactly. That's probably where it was. And at that point in time, I
What do you
didn't
guys, if you don't mind me asking, like, what is the? I just like to know the details about this stuff. And if I'm so fast, I know the viewers got to be too. So, like, is there conversations going on the base? Are you guys like, do you guys ever have conversations like, fuck, man, like, what, like, seriously, like, what are we doing? Or do you guys have like, man, I can't believe he died? And is it talked about in there? Or is it kind of like a no, you don't even bring it up really?
No, you'll kind of run it back, and you'll talk about the mission, what happened, obviously what could have, what we could have done right, and everything. But yeah, internally within the platoon too, you start seeing little factions of people like break off, and yeah, you'll have those same guys that are just like, yeah, exactly. What the hell are we doing here? What are we accomplishing? At this point in time, and it starts really messing with guys for sure, and you'll see like the breaks in the divisions among people, and I was probably like a little bit of a flex at that point in time. I was kind of like still feeling like I was still believing in the mission and everything, but yeah, you're just. I was so
Because even if you believe,
numb.
if you see how many people like dying and stuff like that, you're like, dude, I don't care. Like, no matter how much I believe in this mission,
Yeah.
like, and then you got to be thinking sooner or later it's going to be your time.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, and I got so numb to it that I didn't even care. Like I was just like, whatever. Like I don't know when this last step, it could be my last, and just boom, just vaporized with some IED and everything. So I just
What
learned to
happened when you
dump
came
it,
back
and
from that trip then?
That was bad. Like again, a really.
I want to
good
get
friend
into
of
like
mine.
mental health stuff right there too, because we talked about this. There's a ton of similarities between getting out of prison and getting out of the military. I feel like the biggest difference is the fact that you're not a convicted felon, but other than that, everything else is about the exact same.
I'd imagine a lot of the similarities. Yeah, thinking about it. Like
So how were you then? And were you single when you got back that time? You're still young and single?
I had actually just recently I'd just been married for a couple years actually with my first wife.
Did she love dealing with you when you got back? Or was it?
No, I was an utter mess. I was probably impossible to deal with. We just had my daughter and all that. It was not good. I was not, no conversationally, nothing like that. It was hard and everything. And I just had to get out of the unit. So I was in the 82nd Airborne Division at the time, and I called Ranger Branch up, and I was like, get me out of this unit. I had to.
Were you like, let me get out of
else.
this unit, but you still want to go do the other thing now?
Well, yes, I was still thinking about that, but at this point in time too, my mindset wasn't ready for the Q course at that time for the Special Forces Assessment Selection. So I just wanted to get away from the unit.
What is that, like a boot camp on steroids?
It's the training, the pipeline and selection process to even just get in, to even try out for becoming a Green Beret.
Really?
I was not right at that time. So I left the unit, went over to 101st Airborne Division, and I just kind of needed a break and everything. And that's actually where, very fortunate looking back in my career, I did get that break. I went over there, and I got into skydiving at that point in time just before I left. So I did about 25 jumps at Old Rayford Skydiving Center in Fort Bragg, and went over there. So I had my A license. I was a brand new baby skydiver, and I heard about the 101st Parachute Demonstration Team. And I was just like, wow, that's awesome. I want to go join that team. And sure enough, I end up like finding one of the guys that was on the team, and I tried to do an intro with him, and he was actually like, well, hey, put in your packet and we'll take a look at you. And it was kind of like a long process, but eventually I stayed persistent at it and tried to move my packet over there. And I was just in a regular infantry unit with the 101st at that time, very similar to the 82nd, as a giant infantry, division and everything. But got onto the skydiving team, and there was 10 guys on the skydiving team. 101st Airborne Division, I think, had about 30,000 people as a division.
Wow.
There, 30,000 soldiers. So there's only 10 of us that eventually got on the team.
Damn.
And got into skydiving. And so then I was on the 101st Parachute Demonstration Team, which was the oldest parachute team in the United States Army at that time, which was established in 1958. The Gold Knights were 1959, very famous and great organization as well. And but lucked out, and I got to skydive. I got to jump into baseball games, football games, air shows all across the U.S. And then actually did some reenactment World War II jumps. So I got over to Market Garden. I got to do Market Garden jump, which was so cool, and it was an awesome experience. Mm-hmm. So probably about 250 days out of the year, we were on the road doing demonstrations, skydiving into different venues and everything. Got all my ratings for skydiving. Became a tandem instructor.
Yeah, how many jumps do you have now?
I'm coming up on 7,000 skydives.
7,000? Well, yeah, I thought it said 4,000.
Yep. So nice. almost at 7,000, and the military just trained you up in that, and we got spoiled, and we were just doing. Are
you thinking at this point you're like, this is the kind of military that I want to do?
Exactly.
Now.
So I'm like, this is exactly what I dreamed of. Seeing when I was a kid in the stadium, seeing some other guy parachute into the stadium representing the military, and I'm like, that's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
And for it to work out the way it did, and to look back, it was such a cool experience. And so for 3 years, I was on the parachute demonstration team. Okay. It was just a lot of fun and everything. At that point in time, it took some time to, like, mental health wise. I did go through a divorce with my first wife at that time, but tried to focus, get my life back on track. Started looking into Christianity and going to different Bible study groups and everything, which really kind of walked me back into getting my focus and everything, and kind of straightening my mind out from that previous deployment that I'd had with the 82nd, and it was just a good kind of being able to depress a little bit and actually. Yeah, and it was just a lot of fun. It was a great time.
So what was the next move for you?
At that point in time, that's when I was refocused, and I'm like, all right, now I'm ready to go try the whole kind of Green Beret concept out. And so it was, so I went.
You military fools are crazy, like, seriously.
I don't know what it is. Yeah, there's some drive that, like, as soon it's just, I mean, really, I guess anything in life, you see, something better or just a better elite group of people, and you want to associate yourself with them. You want to become just like they are. And obviously in the special operations community, I mean, they're just the tip of the spear. They're kind of the best of the best. So you always look up to those guys in your military career. And I was like, yes, I want to go see if I have what it takes to make
so
it.
How did that go?
Brutal. I mean, it was, but it was great. I mean, so selection was terrible. I mean, absolutely, they just break you down. I remember,
like the Navy SEALs training stuff they do in the movies that you like that kind of associate.
Yep. Oh yeah, no, I mean, very similar. They obviously the Navy SEALs, they got like kind of their standard and style and their pipelines for what they do for out in buds, and a lot of the water-based stuff and everything, which is very.
Yeah, all I'm thinking of is G.I. Jane right now.
Yeah. No, so it was, we have a very similar course like that, less water-based, but...
How tough was it to get through that?
I mean, you're looking at about 450 applicants that try out for a typical selection process, and you're getting maybe 80 to 100, if that, are getting selected.
Wow.
So, yeah, you're 75, 80% nutrition rate. And... so it was funny because I remember looking back at it. There was day one, I remember getting in to these old rundown tents and everything in this tent city. And there was this guy that just got there, took his shirt off and everything. And this guy looked like he was on the front cover of Muscle and Fitness magazine. I mean, just shredded, yoked. And here I am kind of skinny, 160 pound, kid trying to try out for this, semi-decent shape, but everything. And I see this guy and I'm like, oh, wow, that's one of the guys that's going to make it. Oh my gosh, this is really cool. And I mean, within the first few days, boom, he's one of the first guys to quit.
Really?
It's really funny.
It's all about mental, it's not body strength.
Yep. And even though the mental, so physical, you better be in good shape. but it doesn't matter how good a shape that you get in, because the course is designed to break everyone down. It's completely designed for that. So at that point in time, then it is. It's just that mental toughness that they're really looking for. And
their goal there is just that no matter what situation you put it out there, you're not going to break?
Well, I wouldn't say that you're not going to break, but they raise the levels so high, and they want to separate the different tiers of like, all right, who is still operating relatively functionally in these levels of high stress environment versus the rest of the guys that are just not really hanging, or they're quitting or doing whatever. And then they see that pocket of people, and then those are usually typically the guys that are still standing at the end. And most of those guys are the ones that eventually get selected. But even at that point in time, they could still leave and not get picked up for maybe psychological or some other background issues, even though they made it physically. But that was my first experience with that. And but no, I liked it. It was, looking back at it too, I remember seeing guys, it's so funny. So when we're doing these so-called like smoke sessions, and we're just getting crushed, in there and everything. But I always got a kick out of seeing other people quit. Like, I fed off of watching other people quit, because I was sucking too. Like, I did not like it. I was dying. I was in pain and everything. But the moment I would see like some other guy's hand go up, or just I'm tapping out and I'm done, like, I fed off that. Like, it gave me strength. I'm like, yeah, keep driving on. Like, these guys are quitting. I'm going to keep going. And which just takes you into the long process of the Q course pipeline, and eventually, which is about a 1.5 to 2 year endeavor for.
How long is it from that to the time that you actually go on a mission?
So no, the Q course pipeline in of itself is close to, let's just say, 2 years, 1.5 to 2 years of different training.
Really?
The initial one that I was telling you about is just the intro to get you into that pipeline. And then at that point in time, there's a bunch of different specialties and stuff that they'll teach you on in the course and everything like that. But yeah, no, you're about a 1.5, 2 years of training, to include language training and everything as well. So it's pretty in depth. And then at that point in time, when you graduate the Q course, you go to a Green Beret unit and everything, and then which is all kind of regionally aligned, and then you're
How
now
tight are
Green
you with
Beret.
your Green Beret members there? You're tight when you get there?
No. So as soon as you get there, you're like the new guy. So
the rookie.
Yeah, exactly.
The fish.
Yep.
Pinche pescado.
Yep. So you get there, and you better believe, like, you got your Green Beret, but you're still a baby. You don't know shit.
Oh, and they're probably even trying to punk you too, just to make sure you're tough enough to stay too. Yeah. That's
they'll mess with you. They'll kind of look some hazing sessions and everything.
Fights ever?
And it happens. Yeah.
What's the trouble? What's the punishment if you get in a fight there?
It's all chain command based.
Okay, yeah.
Like, some unit could make a big deal out of it. Majority, especially in special operations,
They could
majority
just
of
break it up,
people,
like,
they let you.
eat.
They let you freaking deal with it.
That's right.
Yeah, just duke it out. Take it out and make sure nobody dies. And so it varies, I guess, but not as common, but yeah, they'll kind of harass you. They'll give you shit for your first 6 months to a year on a team, and then but yeah, you better be working your ass off, learning from all the seasoned Green Berets and everything, and then honing your skills and your craft as well during that time. And at that point in time, that's when I went down to 7th Special Forces Group, which just moved down to Destin, Florida area, Eglin Air Force Base, and got down there. And but no, it was a great experience. New guy on a team, learning the stuff, and then starting to drive on. But right away, you hit the ground running, and you start going to different training and schools and everything. And then at that point in time, you're getting separated. You're leaving your units, and now you're deploying again. And so it's just back and forth between combat deployments and global war on terror and everything.
When was your last deployment?
Well, with the military, I guess, was 2018 was my last one officially with the military. And but yeah.
How many times did you deploy?
So I had about 7 combat deployments with my military career. And then I did quite a few others, about another dozen or so, with another entity, OGA entity in the government as well.
Damn, how were those missions when you're going out there as a Green Beret then? Were they harder on your, or were you more used to it because you knew what to expect?
Yeah, no, well, the missions were good because you surround yourself with just high, top-notch people. And so you're trained for it. Everyone's trained. You've been working with together. So I know your movements, your style of thinking, everything. So you shoot, move, communicate, medicate, kind of the same way.
Damn.
And it's really cool. Just a good vibe with the team and everything. So doing the operations with guys and everything was a very tight bond. It was good doing those types of operations and everything like that. But yeah, you never know.
Where do you guys stay on those missions? Do you have your own special place you stay rather than with everybody else?
Yeah, sometimes.
You guys got a hotel?
Yeah. No, it varies. Different compounds, but a lot of times you would have a big giant military base, and then we'll have our own little tight
wing or
quarters, or,
something.
yeah, our own little section that keeps everyone else out, which is kind of nice, I guess, at that time.
No Green Beret, no service.
So yeah, no, that was I did about 4 or 5 years down with 7th Special Forces Group at that time.
Okay.
And again, just back and forth combat deployments, a lot of training, and which that eventually led me down a pretty dark path on.
Let's hear about it.
Yeah. So now at that point in time, I'm coming up on probably 14 years, I guess, service, and multiple combat deployments, and I had now been married a second time with my current wife right now, Nicole, and we were really good like our first 5 or 6 years. Met her in the 101st Airborne Division, and then went through the Q course with her, which is another 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And so she stayed with me. She kind of got an idea of that. Then we went down to 7th Group together, and our first couple years down there with our first kid and everything was pretty good for the most part. I was really happy, and things were going good. And then at that point in time, again, just back and forth training, deployment. Second kid comes in, and at that point in time, it was just not good. She had a high-risk pregnancy case. We had not really been talking a whole lot. I was just so emotionally numb to the world.
Yeah.
Kind of depressed at this point in time. I was not really liking the team environment. I was just so burned out from all the stuff, and I just didn't know what I wanted to do. But I just knew I was just kind of really getting depressed and sad and kind of doing the same old stuff. And then me and her were not doing good at all. And so I unfortunately, I probably did what a lot of other high statistics ended up doing, and I ended up cheating on her and everything, and found somebody else for a short time to kind of share some kind of talks and conversations with, who I thought would get me, and that made it worse. This was going on for a period of time. Heavy drinking. I'm looking at getting out of the military, ETSing out of the unit. I don't know what the next chapter is in my life. This is baby number 2, and me and her just hardly talking at all. And so, I tried to sink.
Late 30s, about to say, just fucking on everything, huh?
Yeah. No, it was terrible. I mean, it was just bad. I don't even realize like the amount of pain and just the selfishness that I was
Did you
doing.
contemplate suicide at all or anything?
So
Or did it not get
eventually,
that bad?
okay. We'll talk about that here. Yeah, that's coming up. But that took me down a really dark hole. And then eventually I had some good friends that basically were like, "What the fuck are you doing with your life?"
Finally called you on your shit?
Some good friends that kind of, others were enablers though. So they would love to come party with me.
That's who my brother hangs out with, and I don't hang out with those people. And I hang out with people that call me on my shit if I'm doing something bad. You know what I mean?
No, and looking back, a great group of friends that kind of called me on my shit and kind of
that's
snapped me
as
out.
simple as life is. If you ask me, like, you could literally, you hang out with losers, you're gonna be a fucking loser. You hang out with good people, you're gonna be a fucking good person for the most part. You know what I'm saying? That decision's that easy to make to me.
Absolutely. No. And very thankful for them. They called me on it. Eventually I at this point in time, she basically kind of found out and knew now. So now I'm trying to break it off and go back and start to hey,
damn, bro, props
myself.
on you for keeping that together, because I have done it before and it is not fun to try and write that shit.
Yeah, no, that was it broke her heart, man, and she was the entire world to me. And
it's the shitty thing about it is women, we don't even think about it the same way women think about it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's such like an emotional thing for us. And it's like us being cheated is like occupying our time. We just get bored of the same thing. We don't give a shit about them. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and they think you're like in love, and it's not, because I don't know. It just sucks how women. Trust me, you can clearly tell I've been through this with a couple women before. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it crushed her. And at this point in time, we're now leaving out of service. I am just in the darkest hole that I could be in, binge drinking, just doing the stupidest stuff. Everything was going wrong for us. I'm getting ready to leave the service, and now she finds out about that, and she's contemplating, leaving me and everything. And eventually, we're again going back to my Christianity time, and we started kind of finding Christianity together between me and her back in Campbell. So we kind of had a good, decent faith base, relationship and believing in God and all that. So she was very fortunate she wanted to, still willing to stick it out and eventually forgive me.
Shout out to Nicole for that. Yeah.
I love you.
Give her
honey.
a shout out right here.
Yeah. I love you, honey. Yeah, no, I owe you the whole rest of my life. And it was bad, but that was rough, going through that. And that is where it didn't get any better. It was very hard for her to forgive me. She was willing to forgive me, but that it's not an easy road by any means.
And then another thing that some people might not know about too is it's not only about them forgiving you, but then it's like you got to deal with all the shit afterwards, because like them forgiving you is like getting questioned if you're going to the damn store, you're home 5 minutes late, where the hell were you? Like, who is this? And it's like, so it's not only them forgiving you, but it's like then you have to humble yourself enough to deal with all the shit that comes from what you did, because and I'm like, you're fucking nagging at me. She's like, what do you think? What would you be doing if I did that? I'm like, all right, yeah, you're right, you know.
No, yeah. Absolutely.
This hits home to be, so trust me, I know how slippery that slope can be, you know?
Yeah, no, it got bad to the point where, again, the drinking was so bad. And, you know, I actually didn't really mention this portion. So now at this point in time, 15 years have gone by, I'd lost about 8 buddies to mine to suicide.
Wow.
That killed themselves. And so now suicide is like, you know, 22 a day, and suicide's become very real. You think about that often, and you're like, what, man, this is a huge problem. You know, that this is going on. And at that point in time, I never could think about that. You know, I'm never that guy that would ever think about contemplating
Never
suicide.
that guy until you're that guy.
Exactly. And once I knew that I could possibly lose, you know, the love of my life, and she wasn't willing to be with me anymore, the drinking and everything added up. And I was, I pretty much turned a gun to myself on one night. I mean, so close to pulling the trigger. And she had actually just came back home, came downstairs to where I was at. You know, obviously saw what I was doing immediately. Just like panicked and kind of like, you know, ran over to me, tried to, you know, basically like tackle the gun away. And I was belligerently drunk. And, but no, that was
Damn,
a huge wake up call for me, obviously the following morning, as she's telling me a lot about this stuff. But at that point in time, it was kind of she realized like, okay, let's focus on, you've really got to get some help. There's a lot of issues going on, and kind of put a little bit of the side of kind of what I just did to her, the pain that I put her through, and her to focus on me.
That's cool,
and again, to which I owe her so much for. But that eventually took me to leaving out of the service, and eventually into like some of the foundation work and everything that kind of got me to where I am today.
Yeah, get into that. What'd you do after the service then?
Yeah, so I had and
did you have a plan of doing this, or did it just happen sporadically?
No. So this that kind of just happened sporadically. Like I appreciated at this point in time now, I'm starting to get help, different types of therapies, different foundations that I'd reached out to.
Yeah, what'd you do for help? Because a lot of people, you know, people getting out of prison need help. I knew it. Like, what'd you do? Therapy,
yeah, no. So marriageal counseling was a huge one. So different types of counseling. So the marrial counseling. Probably
90% of my guests, if they're married, need marriage counseling.
Yeah,
so,
and honestly, no, I'm not going to shit on it. It's great. It's very helpful. It can definitely get you down some good roads and all that. So that definitely drove a lot of things. But different foundations that I'd reached out to. One of a big one, All Secure Foundation. Tom and Jen Satterley and what they're doing is incredible with you know, kind of the healings, the post-traumatic stress, TBI stuff that they're kind of dealing with and capturing, and that you can recover from this stuff and everything. And so I reached out to their foundation, got some help with them. So that's kind of my first initial, like, oh, these different types of, you know, nonprofits are really giving help to different veterans, because the military in and of itself is just, they're terrible at it. They're not getting us the help that we need and everything, especially in the mental health arena. And so you had to outsource it and seek it through foundations. And that's where different foundations helped me kind of grow and develop a little bit into where I'm kind of, you know, currently at today. But at that point in time, when once I got the help and the foundations and everything that I did, I was basically, so the job that I did after, actually, so I went over for a period of time after I left out of 7th Group, ended up going into the agency, and I was an independent contractor for the CIA.
People don't know what people don't know what the agency is.
The agency.
I try to hang out with FBI people and CIA people and shit now. You know, I mean, it's cool. You know?
That's an interesting world there, none of which I can really talk about anything on the show. But
I figured that.
Very interesting, group of people and everything, and it was cool and good experience. But did that for a period of time, and then you're a contractor, you're disposable, so they eventually can cut you. I left out of there, basically got cut and everything, and was jobless for a little bit, and that's when I eventually ran in. Here I am in the gym trying to think about what's like the next chapter in my life and everything, and an old high school friend of mine comes strolling through the gym, and a shout out, to Jesse Kessler. And
you know Jesse since high school?
Yeah.
Shut up.
Me and Jesse go all the way back to high school. I was a senior. He was a sophomore at that time.
I heard he's quiet, right?
He is. Yeah. He's very quiet. He's kind of like a quiet professional. He's a hard worker. I mean, just crushes it, and doesn't look for any accolades or anything like that. He's just out there, just always getting the work done that needs to get done.
Yeah.
But here I am running into him in the gym. And so this is hilarious because now it's 18, 20 years has gone by. I haven't seen this guy in a hot minute. And he was a skinny little twig when I last saw him.
Oh, now he's jacked.
Yeah. As soon as he comes up, I kind of recognize his face. And I'm like looking at him and he's like, Jesse.
That's such a dope nickname.
And Quisenberry is my last name. So everyone knew me as Quiz. And he's just like, yeah, it's Jesse Kessler. And I'm like, no, it's not. You're the guy that ate Jesse Kessler. Converted all his protein into your body. Yeah. Oh, dude, he's just huge. He was a monster.
Yeah.
But it was awesome. No, so we hit it off. It was great. Running into him in the gym, we connect with some old lunches and everything like that. And he doesn't really know a whole lot. I know I went to the service, but he doesn't know anything else. And so, we just kind of reconnected and he
didn't know you've been killing mofos for 18 years.
He really, did not know a whole lot on that world as well. But it was cool. And obviously, so I'm talking to him, like, what's going on with your life? What are you doing? And he talks about Transcend Company and what's going on with that. And
shout out to Transcend right here.
Absolutely.
For the gear, too.
Yep. No, Transcend company is really cool. So that's a company that him and Ernest Collins. So Jesse and Ernest.
Talk about it too, because I use the products also. So you can talk about a lot of people should use this stuff too.
No, absolutely. But the two of them basically kind of had this brainchild of theirs of bringing a lot more types of hormone replacement therapies, different types of peptides, medications, and everything, and just the need for that. It was the biggest thing is like basically taking your own kind of your fitness and your overall health and wellness in your life and, being like the sole, kind of charger and ownership of that and being able to kind of like take a look at your panels, take a look at what's going inside of you, and kind of learn like what exactly is going on. Like what
are you missing or lacking?
Yeah. So, I mean, the fitness industry is huge with just, your creatines and your wheys and a lot of that stuff, but like not a lot of them really customize, like what is going on with you specifically, your hormones, your blood panels, what is that saying about you?
Completely different. Your test could be at 200, mine could be at 800 naturally.
Yep. And so they started basically this kind of hormone replacement therapy, this company and everything it's taken off. It's done really well, helping a lot of people out. So it's a health optimization clinic. And that's just done really well. And they've been doing that for the last 2 years and just crushing it, just doing really good in those areas. And so now at this point in time, that's when I ran into him at the gym. And he introduced me to Ernie. He's like, he's a military vet. You got to meet him. You guys will hit it off. So sure enough, I go in and we start talking, and immediately me and Ernie are both, shooting the shit, talking about our old, war stories and whatnot. Yeah. And but immediately we come to the same conclusion that there was like this kind of problem going on with a lot of the mental health. It's not getting addressed. And he had similar issues with dealing with like some PTS and everything as well that he had to address on his own. Military doesn't do a whole lot with that. They're getting slightly a little bit better, but there's not a lot going on with it. And at this point in time, I meet up with him, and I'll take it back to a story that as I was leaving out of 7th Special Forces Group, I basically had all these panels done up on me. So we had these docs, the dietitians, everything in bed with my ODA for 2 months. So all these people gathering all this research on us. And it was pretty cool, like sleep, heart rate monitors, your dieting, everything. Wow. And for 2 months, they gathered all this research for Special Operations Command, SOCOM. And so pending the end of that 60 days, back in my time with 7th Group, a few years earlier, we get all these results. And at this point in time, I'm kind of like, okay, hey, so what's the deal? What's going on? And so they sit you down and they talk about you individually, like where you're at. And so they're doing all this research on all the not all the soldiers, but a select group of people that they're getting it on, and testing them on like what's going on with their cortisol levels, their hormones, everything like that. So that was my first experience with HRT without really knowing anything. So they do that deep dive into me and everything, and then into the rest of the team guys as well. And at the end of that, they basically are like, well, this is what's going on with you. You have low testosterone, you have low DHEA, your thyroid's low, your high blood pressure.
You're talking about you or me?
Yeah, exactly. So it's actually a majority of people, unfortunately, sure. Especially in the veteran military community. And so all these issues going on with us. So I'm like, okay, that's not the greatest news, but hey, what can I do from here? What can you help me with? And they're like, oh, there's nothing we can do about it. And literally, so like now they ran all these tests on us, and there was nothing that they could do. They were just gathering the research and everything. So that was my first experience with that, and that was a few years prior. And that's when I start talking to my other buddies on different teams and everything. And I'm like, what's the deal with you? You know, like, hey, did you have low testosterone too? Or, you know, what's the deal? And sure enough, a huge common theme with guys having those issues. And so, you know, two decades of warfare and the global war on terror with GWAT, all these guys back and forth, they're just completely drained. Cortisol levels, adrenal fatigue, brain fog, they're completely drained. But the worst part about it is those operators, those guys that are dealing with it, like they don't even really know the problem because they're trained to just suck it up and drive on. So they don't care about it.
They're used to being tired and not, not
oh yeah, it's another day in the office.
For sure.
And
I didn't think about that.
Yeah, and so that's when I plugged back in with Ernie, and then I shared that story with Ernie the day that I met him, and then he ends up sharing a very similar story. And at that point in time, we basically kind of marinated
Made a pact
on
to do something about it.
Exactly. We talked about like creating the foundation, and so his company was doing really well, and he's like, I want to create the Transcend Foundation, which has a special emphasis on helping veterans and first responders and their families through a lot of the physical and mental health issues that they face. And so one of our main specialties that we do with our company was hormone replacement therapy, and that's a really big one. So we take a deep dive into people's labs. We start customizing programs to exactly what their body is telling them, and that's what made the business so successful for those guys. But now at this point in time, we started the foundation to be able to give back to the veterans that are dealing with those same exact problems, on the day-to-day level. And we're putting them on protocols right now at no cost to the service members. And that's our plan to get those guys, back into, basically homeostasis or full optimization with their bodies and everything. And so now that's where we're starting out with the foundation. And
that's cool.
That's kind of the new mission with that. And,
what projects do you have coming up now? This is a cool story, dude. I didn't have to say too much stuff about I'm doing it right. I'm bringing on guests. I don't even have to talk really.
Yeah.
I say 11 words. I'm chilling.
No, it's the foundation's got some really cool things moving forward. So with the Transcend 50 Foundation right now, this is a 501c3 nonprofit. We're pending right now, so we're still waiting for the IRS to give us our tax stamp any day, get us approved. But we're
too busy sending letters to my house.
Yeah. We're partnering with other foundations right now. We got some really good plays moving forward with different foundations. I won't say who yet because it's not solidified, but some great plays with connecting with other foundations to really focus on physical health and recovery and mental health and recovery and everything, especially with TBI, PTS, and that stuff is treatable. All right, and that's kind of like the message through different foundations, different entities that I've been working with now. Like it is, the PTSD, and we've been saying like disorder and all that, but the community is starting to drop the D now. It's not a disorder. This is definitely treatable. All right, you got PTS growth. You have the ability to get better. One of our entities with our mental health and the stuff that we do has the ability to fix a lot of that. And then if we don't have the ability to fix that with the hormone replacement therapies and the stuff that we have to offer for veterans and first responders, we'll outsource our work to other foundations that have the capability to possibly reach that individual on levels to help them. And that's the whole networking with the foundation and everything. And so that's kind of where we're at with that. And so that's been going really good. And then the next biggest project that we have coming up right now is called the Human Performance Project. That's I think launching February 17th next year, where we are going on 7 continents, 7 days, 7 skydives, 7 marathons, 7 swims and cold plunges.
No way.
And we're taking, we got Mark Cuban's plane. We're flying around the country for that. That's all about garnering money and gaining research and data and everything for veterans and first responders, and being able to help get that data and then do that event to raise the awareness and the donations. That all that money and the proceeds that we make with that particular mission that we're set out to do is just given right back to the veteran and first responder community.
Wow, that's
so
awesome. That's
going to be a big one that I'm looking forward to. So I'll be jumping in and skydiving into those 7 continents as well. So I'm looking forward to that. But that's some great stuff that's kind of going on in the future.
What any other big projects you have or goals in the future?
Right now, no. I mean, getting the foundation up and going. So we are almost there. That's been. I am, like I said, Green Beret. I have no experience in, 501c3 nonprofit work.
You have experience in just figuring shit out though when you need to.
That's exactly all I'm doing.
That's what the world takes. You know what I mean?
Just figuring it out.
You don't need no schooling degree, none of that shit.
Yeah.
Just, you need someone to just get in there and figure shit out and handle
just
it.
highly motivated, someone who's passionate about doing something, and they'll get the mission done. And that's where I've been, literally, like cracking, 501c3 nonprofit book for dummies, and just reading stuff like that, diving into it. But it's been great, that the networking, the people that I've been able to kind of meet and everything. It's been awesome to be able to see these different entities, organizations out there that are trying to give back to the veterans and first responders that have given us so much. And that is what our foundation's also set out to do as well, to be able to help them in those areas. And so that is the biggest project, is getting this foundation up and going for me. It's my biggest passion, my drive right now going on. I really enjoy it. Truly grateful to running into Jesse at the gym, who hooked me up with that job originally, and then working side by side with Ernest Collins and Transcend Company, and moving that forward. And it's been great. And that's my next mission, is just relentlessly making those connections, to not give up on veterans and first responders. And I'm going to night and day, like trying to attempt to get them the help that they need.
I want to just ask one last question. This is just because I'm curious too, because I deal with the PTS. We won't say D anymore too, but now, since you had a treatment, do you still have flashbacks, anything that still brings you back to that stuff? And I told you I heard the one voice one time from some dude screaming, but like, is there anything back there, you kind of move past it, and what do you use when it triggers you to like, just to get it out of your mind or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's, they're still there. Yeah. It's funny how the old stigma, like time heals all wounds. So, I mean, the longer I'm kind of further away.
It never goes away,
and everything.
Yeah.
So you kind of get a little bit better,
You just learn how to deal with it, right?
You do. You learn how to deal with it. But there's definitely, especially in PTS, like the hyper alertness and everything, especially coming off, combat rotations and everything is super high until you start to wind down in the day-to-day lives. And then, but it's weird. One of my big ones, it's crazy, is some of the guys that I've seen, good buddies of mine, and people that have been killed like in front of me and all that. It feels like every now and then I'll be at a store and I feel like I see them, and it's a person that looks like them, but I see it and it hits you so hard in your brain to the point where I'm almost walking up to that individual, like about to be like, hey.
Because your brain probably wants you to think it's him so bad at you. Yeah, wow.
That's one that always gets me. And then it's like, I have to snap myself out of it, and think about, hey, what's, but no, there's definitely been some great research, with being able to reposition and store the trauma in your brain. And that's some of the procedures that we offer as well. And being able to hook people up. EMDR is one of our big ones, which basically takes that really bad experience, repositions it in the brain, and kind of stores it into one that's not entirely like, hey, your fault. You can kind of let this go. You still know it happened, but it replaces it somewhere where it's a lot more easy to deal with. So those are some of the different procedures that we have to offer to be able to help those people that have suffered through that.
That's cool. Man, thank you for your service for one, and thank you for being here. Dude, I'm blown away. Like this was very good. Like I love military. I love hearing this stuff, and I was fascinated, bro. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much again for your service and being here. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Roll Call with Chappie. See you guys next week. Thank you. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe wherever you get your podcast and leave us some feedback. We would love to know what you think. You can find everything discussed in this episode and more in our show notes below or petermeyerhoff.com. I am Peter Meyerhoff, and you've been listening to the Roll Call with Chappie podcast.